9 seconds, that's all it takes. 9 seconds of silence. And suddenly, the person who once ignored your messages starts wondering where you went. If you've ever noticed that the moment you stop chasing, everything changes. You're not imagining it. There's a reason silence hits harder than words ever could. Most people believe attraction is about saying the perfect thing, the perfect text, the perfect compliment. But the truth most people were never told is this: the more you try to explain yourself, the more predictable you become. And predictability quietly kills curiosity. Think about the last time you pulled back. Not out of anger, not to play games, just because you focused on your own life. Suddenly the dynamic shifted, messages came faster, the tone changed, questions appeared that were never asked before. Where have you been? Are you busy lately? What are you doing tonight? Silence does something powerful to the human mind. It creates space, and the human brain hates empty space. When there's silence, imagination fills the gap. And imagination is stronger than reality. When you're always available, your presence becomes background noise. Comfortable, yes, but invisible. The moment that constant attention disappears, the brain starts searching for answers. Did he lose interest? Did something happen? Is there someone else? And suddenly, you become a mystery again. This isn't manipulation, it's psychology. Real attraction has never been about convincing someone to like you. It's about allowing them the space to feel your absence. Because here's the uncomfortable truth many people never admit. People often realize your value most clearly when your energy is no longer constantly available to them, when you stop over-explaining, when you stop sending paragraphs trying to keep someone interested, when you stop proving your worth. Silence forces people to confront a question they were avoiding before: what if I lose this person? And that question changes everything, not because you disappeared, but because for the first time, your attention is no longer guaranteed. And when attention becomes rare, it becomes valuable. The world teaches people to chase validation, to chase replies, to chase reassurance. But the people who quietly step back and invest in their own purpose create something far more powerful than attention. They create curiosity, and curiosity pulls people in far stronger than desperation ever could. Because when someone can't predict your next move, they start thinking about you more than ever before. Silence doesn't shout, it echoes. The moment you go silent, something unusual begins to happen inside her mind. At first, it's subtle. She notices the absence of the message she expected. The small notification that used to appear like clockwork doesn't come. She checks her phone again. Nothing. At first, she shrugs it off. People get busy. Life happens. But the human mind has a powerful habit. It tries to close unfinished loops. When something that once felt predictable suddenly stops, the brain becomes restless. Because now there's a question with no answer. And unanswered questions are uncomfortable. The truth most people never realize is that constant communication actually lowers emotional intensity over time. When someone knows exactly when you'll text, exactly how you'll respond, and exactly how available you are, the emotional mystery disappears. You become safe, predictable, easy to place on a shelf, but silence disrupts that pattern instantly. Now her brain starts replaying your last conversations. Did I say something wrong? Did he lose interest? Why hasn't he texted? And here's where something deeper begins. When your attention disappears, her brain doesn't just notice the silence, it starts remembering you, your jokes, your voice, that moment you made her laugh, the way you looked at her. The brain begins searching its memory because it's trying to understand the change. And ironically, the more she thinks about you to solve the mystery, the more emotionally present you become in her mind. This is why silence often feels louder than 100 messages, because messages answer questions, silence creates them, and questions create emotional tension. Now imagine the opposite situation: someone who texts constantly, checks in every hour, sends long explanations whenever the conversation slows down. It might feel caring on the surface, but psychologically something very different happens. It removes uncertainty, and uncertainty is one of the most powerful drivers of attraction. When everything is explained, nothing needs to be imagined, but when silence appears, imagination takes over. Maybe he's focused on something big. Maybe he's busy improving his life. Maybe other people want his attention. Suddenly, you're no longer just another message in her phone. You're a question mark. And question marks are powerful because the brain is wired to chase answers. This doesn't mean disappearing to manipulate someone. That always backfires. Real silence comes from something much more attractive, a life that doesn't revolve around constant validation. When you genuinely focus on your work, your goals, your purpose, communication becomes natural instead of desperate, and that difference is felt immediately. Because when someone senses that your attention is valuable and not endlessly available, they start paying closer attention to you. And in that quiet space where your messages used to be, her mind gets louder and louder. Here's the part nobody talks about. When you stop filling every moment with attention, something deeper happens inside her mind. The power dynamic quietly shifts. At the beginning of most relationships or dating situations, there's an invisible balance. Two people feeling each other out, testing energy, watching effort. But when one person constantly chases, constantly reassures, constantly tries to prove their worth, that balance slowly tilts. Without realizing it, they place the other person on a pedestal. And the strange thing about pedestals is this: people rarely chase what they feel is already beneath them. But the moment you step back, calmly, quietly, without drama, that pedestal disappears. Now something new appears in its place: uncertainty. She starts wondering what changed, not just about your messages, but about your attention itself. Because attention is emotional currency, and when someone always gives it freely, its value drops. But when it becomes selective, intentional, and rare, it suddenly feels important. Think about this for a moment. When someone knows you're always there, no matter what they do, there's no risk of losing you. And when there's no risk, there's no urgency. But silence introduces risk, not loud, dramatic risk, quiet risk, the kind that slowly creeps into someone's thoughts late at night. What if he's moving on? What if he realized he deserves better? What if someone else sees his value? These thoughts don't come from manipulation. They come from a simple psychological truth. People respect what respects itself. When a man has boundaries with his time, his energy, and his attention, it signals something powerful without saying a word. It signals that his life has direction, that his focus isn't controlled by constant emotional reactions, and that kind of emotional stability is rare. Most people react instantly to everything, every message, every delay, every small change in tone, but the person who remains calm, grounded, and focused on their own path creates a different kind of presence, one that feels strong, not loud, not aggressive, just solid. And solidity is attractive because it feels safe. When your silence comes from confidence instead of anger, it sends a message far louder than arguments ever could. It says, "My life continues whether someone validates me today or not." That mindset changes the way people see you, because suddenly you're not trying to hold someone's attention. You're simply living a life that earns it. And the truth most people never realize is this: when someone senses that your happiness doesn't depend on their approval, your presence becomes far more intriguing, because now they can't control it. And when something can't be controlled, it becomes fascinating. So while you're focused on your goals, your work, your life, somewhere in the quiet spaces between notifications, her mind keeps returning to the same question: what changed about him? What makes silence so powerful isn't just that it creates questions. It forces someone to face their own feelings without your voice guiding the moment. When you're constantly explaining yourself, constantly reassuring, constantly pushing the conversation forward, you unknowingly control the emotional pace. You carry the energy of the interaction. But the moment you step back, the emotional weight shifts. Now she has to sit with the space. And in that space, something interesting happens. Feelings that were quiet before suddenly become louder, because attraction doesn't grow through pressure. It grows through reflection, through the moments when someone is alone with their thoughts, replaying memories, wondering what something meant. When you're always there filling every silence, that reflection never happens. But when you're not, the mind starts revisiting moments, the way you spoke with confidence, the time you didn't try too hard to impress, the moment you laughed and didn't seem worried about being judged. These memories start forming a picture in her mind, a picture she begins interpreting on her own, without you trying to convince her of anything. And the strange thing about human psychology is this: people trust conclusions they arrive at themselves far more than conclusions someone tries to sell them. When someone constantly says, "I care about you," the words slowly lose weight. But when your actions show independence, calmness, and focus on your own life, the mind begins to build a story about you without you saying a word. He must be confident. He's probably busy building something. He doesn't seem desperate for attention. And suddenly you become different from the endless noise of people constantly seeking validation. Because most people today are fighting for attention every minute. Notifications, messages, comments, reactions, everyone shouting just to be seen. Silence stands out in a world full of noise. It feels rare, intentional, controlled. And that control sends a signal many people don't consciously realize they're responding to: emotional strength. Not coldness, not arrogance, just a quiet understanding that your value isn't determined by how quickly someone responds to you. When someone senses that about you, their perception changes. Your words carry more weight. Your presence feels calmer, more grounded. And ironically, the less you try to occupy every second of someone's attention, the more space you occupy in their mind. Because people remember the ones who don't chase approval. They remember the ones who seem comfortable in their own world. And when that world doesn't revolve around constant validation, it becomes something people feel curious about being part of. And this is where the biggest truth appears, the one most people never hear. Silence isn't powerful because it makes someone chase you. Silence is powerful because it forces you to stop chasing people who were never truly investing in you to begin with. When you stop over-texting, over-explaining, and over-giving your attention, something very revealing happens. The people who were only responding to convenience slowly fade away, and the people who genuinely value you begin leaning closer. Silence becomes a filter. It separates curiosity from indifference, because someone who truly enjoys your presence doesn't disappear the moment you stop doing all the emotional work. They reach out, they check in, they notice the difference, and when that happens, you finally see the truth that constant communication used to hide. You see who actually cares. You see who only liked the attention. And most importantly, you start respecting your own time. This is where real confidence begins. Not the loud kind that tries to impress everyone. The quiet kind that understands attention is a limited resource. Your time matters. Your focus matters. Your energy matters. When you start treating those things like they have value, the world around you slowly adjusts. People begin sensing that you're not available for endless emotional games, that your life is moving forward with or without someone's validation. And ironically, that's when attraction becomes effortless, because confidence is never built through chasing approval. It's built through self-respect, through knowing you don't need to fill every silence to keep someone interested, through understanding that the right people won't need constant reminders of your value. They'll see it, they'll feel it, and they'll respond to it. Now, I'm curious about something. Have you ever noticed how someone's behavior changed the moment you stopped texting first or stopped giving constant attention? Tell me in the comments. If this opened your eyes, take a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with a friend who needs to hear it. Sometimes the loudest message you can send is saying nothing at all.